So the Minnesota Vikings selected Jeff Gladney with the 31st pick. Second to last pick in the first round. And I find this to be a pretty interesting selection for sure. For one thing, I actually don't know if I think he feels like more of a prospect, or more of a project. He's kind of someone who I think it's going to take him a second before he really gets going. He makes a lot of mistakes, and I'll just get into what some of those mistakes are right away. One of those is he will play too passive at times. Like on this play, what's going to happen is that it's going to be a cover one play. And you see that route right there. That's the route that Gladney is going to be going up against. So that's the route that he's in charge of covering. So, basically, there's a lot of things you could do. But what I really want you to also keep an eye on is the first down marker. It's you're 10 yards away. So the first down marker is at the 15-yard line. But watch how Gladney, he's going to stay so far deep at this point. I mean, look at how far DP is. And for one thing, the safety was already pretty far in, so maybe he's just trying to make sure that he doesn't allow himself to get beat over the top. But at the same time, look at how much separation there is right now, where a receiver is cutting to the outside, but he's 5 yards away, which is not very good. The first down marker is right there, right where that receiver is cutting, and he's completely letting him get free in that direction. He's just giving up too much space at this point, and he's going to do his best to try and close in that gap, but he just can't because it was a good enough throw and because he was already too far away. So that's just out of position is a very key problem a cornerback can have. I mean, really, when it comes to defensive backs, positioning is everything. That being said, I think that Minnesota Vikings fans will say, well, listen, we have a great coaching staff that does a pretty good job at developing defensive players, and I agree with that. I think that especially defensive backs, I think Mike Zimmer will do a great job at developing him probably. I mean, it's definitely, Gladney's in good hands, and Gladney has to be very happy about going to Minnesota, but there are some problems that he has right now, so I felt like I should bring those up. This play's another interesting one where he's going up against that receiver on the top of the screen right over there. And what you're going to notice right after the ball is snapped is that the receiver sort of fakes it though he's going towards the middle, and he's going to then try to get closer to the sideline. And look at how well Gladney is biting on this. I guess how badly Gladney is biting on it, where his hips are completely turned to the inside, which you can do, especially when you're on that side of the field. But really, ideally, you would like to make sure that if he does cut to the sideline, if you're Gladney, you want to make sure you push him closer to the sideline. Use the sideline as an extra defender, so to speak. But because of this initial twist, look at how clunky he's going to have to move back, and that gives up a lot of separation right there. And it's just not a tremendous play from Gladney, although he did do a great job of coming back. Again, when he comes back on these plays, that's pretty good. But again, you don't want to be giving up that separation to begin with, really. He gets beat, and he will get beat relatively frequently. I'm not cherry-picking plays. These are things that I've definitely noticed. It's just a lot of those like double moves he really gets fooled on. When you fake as though you're doing something but then do something else, he can get fooled pretty consistently on it, and it's a pretty bad problem, and it's certainly something that you hope a first-round defensive back doesn't do. This is another example where it's going to be a one-on-one matchup. He is going to be running, the receiver is going to be running deep, but he's going to make a quick move as though he's cutting over the middle and then running deep. Again, these moves are really what tends to fool Gladney. And watch how, so he starts to fake as though he's going to the inside. And if you look at Gladney, he's closer to the inside than this receiver. So just logically, you have to think about it. And he's not going to just slowly run into you. If he is going to run in that direction, he's probably going to try to make a move to get you out of position in that area. If this is a slant route, you're in position, so don't worry too much about it. However, he's still taking steps over in that direction quickly. So this way, when the receiver does run deep, again, there's just a ton of separation right there. And it's just those kind of mistakes that you really want to avoid if you're Gladney. And you have to imagine when Minnesota decided to draft him, they said, this is something we're going to have to work on. This is something that we're going to have to make sure that he has down by the time he is, it's week 10 or potentially in the playoffs. You don't want to see him getting burnt. And so that's definitely something that could be a problem. I also do sometimes just have some worries about his ball skills, Again, this video has turned into a very negative video about Gladney. I don't think he's an untalented player. I will show a positive play and talk a little bit about what I like about him, but I do think that he is definitely a project, and one of the reasons why, again, is what we shown on a play like this, where he's going up one-on-one against number 8 right there, the receiver, and watch how, he's going to cut sort of towards the sideline, and at the line, Gladney just completely gives up the, no contact there, just doesn't really bail, but doesn't really create contact either. So now he kind of got the worst of both worlds, and now he's in a position where he's not in a great position. I mean, he's going to have to turn his back, and that's always difficult. But, it also does happen in football, so not a terrible play. What he's going to do is now create some contact. He's going to push off a little bit, and then at this point you see that his assigned man, he has a chance to look at the ball, whereas Gladney, his back is turned, so he can't really see it too much. For one thing, that little push-off actually got called for pass interference, which could be argued as weak, but that's what they did. But also at this point, for Gladney, you do kind of have to, this is the problem with that first part of the line where you sort of gave up like that, is now you're just out of position to try and make the play. And also, as you see, he ran way too far back. When the receiver cut, he didn't realize it quick enough, and so now there's separation where he's able to make a catch. I mean, that's a really well-ran route, so it's hard to blame him too much, but again, that's a well-ran route, but guys in the NFL are going to run those types of routes consistently, so you're going to have to be able to do that and be able to cover up those types of routes. That being said, I said I would show positive play. There are things I like about Gladney, don't get me wrong. He's not an abysmal player by any means. His physical skill set is pretty good, and every now and then he will make a good high IQ play too. Like, I'm not trying to say that he's a dumb player. I just think that he has a lot of work to do in that regard. But, this was an aware play where it's a cover 2 man. It's going to be a 3rd down and 3, so important to stop the first down right here. And as you notice, there's going to be an offensive player who is pretty wide open. The defensive player who's in charge of covering him is pretty far away. So why am I showing this play? Well, because Gladney, who is currently off screen closer to the bottom of the screen, he's going to break up and he's going to realize this, despite the fact that it's man coverage, and find a way to make a play, even though he could have, that could have been a very bad thing, but he did a good job of realizing that. So, listen, he makes some good reads sometimes, can be aware sometimes. I'm not trying to say he's a disaster, but there's some work that needs to be done. There really is. I think his skills at the line, he needs some work at. I think he needs some work at not getting beat by all of these moves. He does get beat relatively consistently. But again, physically, he's good. So, there are pros, there are cons to Gladney, but just from where I'm sitting, I would say that I don't love this pick. However, I would say that I do trust Minnesota more than I trust myself in terms of their scouting department, and I trust that they can develop Gladney. We'll have to wait and see, but I do feel like he is in good hands, and he could turn into a great corner with them, but it probably won't be week 1 of 2020. That's kind of where I'm sitting. I guess my main worry about Gladney is I just kind of worry maybe did the Vikings decide that we're going to go out and draft a corner because we need a corner, as opposed to going out and drafting Gladney because they wanted Gladney. That's kind of my concern. I'm not saying they definitely did that, but there is definitely a bit of concern there, I think, and I think it's fair to have that concern. I'm not sitting here and saying that I think Gladney is going to be a terrible player by any means. Again, he does some things very well. I mean, that last play I showed, that's a tremendous play. So he definitely will make those highlight reel level plays. I just think he needs to work on his consistency a lot. He needs to just, just get more reps. And with the higher speed, it could get a little bit harder. I could see him definitely having a bad start to next year. Maybe even having a bad year overall, which could be a problem because, Minnesota, they're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, it seems. I mean, why wouldn't they? They have a very good roster. So getting someone who's maybe more of a project, I think that's a bit of a curious choice. But at the same time, they really needed cornerback help. They really did. So I understand both sides. And, I did like their other first-round picks. So, the advantage of having multiple first-round picks is that you can kind of maybe go after a project and hope it works out better. So maybe there's some logic to that as well. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of this selection? I've made Minnesota videos in back-to-back days now. I made my Dalvin Cook video yesterday, so check that one out. I was much more positive on him, so if you want to hear me being positive, check out that one. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, of course, and as always, thanks for watching.